video, everyone. Today we will be going through step number 4 of setting up your income and expense planning tool, which is forecasting out future revenue and expenses. Jumping right into it, let's go to the Template Setup tab by clicking the button on the intro screen. We scroll down slightly to step number 4, we can see it's laid out and there's a short description provided. Essentially, what we are doing in this step is learning how to read our income statement with all the actual data you input in the last step. But then really taking it a step further to the next level and projecting what we're likely to spend in the future based on your recent spending patterns. As it mentions in the description, we need to go to the Income Statement Forecast tab, navigate there by clicking on the icon, or click the actual tab below. I'll click on the icon. For the layout of the tab, we have some instructions in row 4, a legend provided below that, and the actual income statement itself. Starting with the legend, any cell that is light gray color, you can type in it. This is same and very consistent with the other tabs. So again, that's going to be these tabs over here that are all light gray in addition to this one up here as well. Now, any cell that's this charcoal color, that's going to indicate that it's a drop-down box. So as we move to some of these charcoal ones, we can see that there's a long drop-down box associated with each one. So we go down one more. Any cell that is in blue font indicates that it's a forecast value. We will get a little bit more into the forecast aspect later on in the video. And then the last one, cells that are black, mean that they are actual values. We can see here that based on the last step we input our transactions in, we put it in for January and February. Clearly here we can see for January and February the font is black, which means that those are actual results. Looking at the tab layout, I'll break into the 3 main sections. Section number 1 is your categories in column L. This is populated with all the categories that you created in the first step of setting up this model. If you do not see your categories in column L, it's important to go back to the Income Expense Categories tab and click both active buttons at the bottom of the income section. This will send your categories back out to the remainder of the model. Moving over to the right in this kind of center portion, we'll start here with 2021 actuals. This portion of the model houses your prior year data. So this is 2021 actuals in this situation, but it's always going to be the previous year. If you have not input any data for the previous year, this will populate as 0 as it is right now. As we move over to the right into this main income statement section, we can see this is your current year income statement. When we look at January and February, we can see that the font is black, indicating that these are actual results per what we put into the model in the previous step. Going over the right, we can see that the rest is populated with blue values, indicating that those are the future forecast. You may be asking, what is forecast? And didn't I already do this in the budget tab? Well, in short, a forecast allows you to project future spending based on your recent spending behaviors. This is a powerful tool to perform what-if analysis. A perfect example is the entertainment category. Using this tab, I can say, how much would I have saved by the end of the year if my average monthly entertainment spending continued for the remainder of the year? And would that bring me over or under my budget? Based on what we put in the previous steps, we put in $100 per month for our entertainment budget. As we look at this, we can see that going down to entertainment, our average monthly spend is actually $63. So what that means is I'm not necessarily going to be spending as much as I originally budgeted by the end of the year in the entertainment section based on this most recent trend. Now, if I had not done a forecast, then I would have a different outlook of what to expect at year end. So really, a forecast is a projection of what you will spend going forward. Over to the right, it'll show you different time periods. So as we go to this, we can see these 4 time periods up top. Now, all these definitions are available in the Supplemental Instructions tab here in the model that has a lot of general information, so we can see those definitions right here. But going back to the tab, we can just go through and hit on them real quick. CM stands for current month. That's really just going to be the most recent month you've input data for. If I just input data for February 2022, the current month would be February. We can see in this part that the amount in this February current month matches what is in February in this column right here. Moving over to year to date. YTD stands for your year-to-date value. Now, what this simply represents is the sum of all the months that have occurred so far in the year. If I say year-to-date February, that means the results are the sum of January and February. We can see here, going over to the food section, if I sum up January and February, that equals 563, which is also represented here in the year-to-date box. Moving over one more, ROI stands for remainder of the year. This is the sum of the rest of the months in the year that have not occurred yet. So in our example, rest of year would be March through December. Naturally, since they've not occurred yet, those are all forecast values. We can see that March through December, if we look at the food section, sums up to $3,500, which equals what is in this rest of year section. And then finally, YE stands for your year-end value. This is the sum of all the values January through December, so the entire year. Year-end will represent the combination of actuals and forecast. We can see here, this sums the actual results in January and February for a category, so we can use food again, but then also includes your rest of your months as well to come out to $4,063. Okay, so moving to section number 3 of the tab over here to the right, it contains all the areas where you can select what assumptions you'd like to apply to your rest of your forecast. Either you can select one of the stock options from the dropdown. We hit one of these charcoal boxes. We'll see that there's a lot of stock options available in here. There's also 2 familiar looking ones in the form of your monthly manual and year-end manual. If you'd like to brush up on how to use those, I'd recommend going to the step number 2 video, and it'll walk you through there step by step. Now, there's a lot of options here, so let's break them down. Starting with these month averages. So we've got a 3-month, 6-month, 9-month, and 12-month average. These are exactly like they sound. It's simply taking the average of the last 3, 6, 9, 12 months. Now, when do you use these? These will be used in instances where you want to either reflect a short or long-term trend. As an example, maybe I've noticed the amount I'm paying to fill up my car is substantially higher the last 3 months. That would represent a new trend emerging, so I'd probably want to select a 3-month average, since that is likely what I'll see in the future. On the flip side, if I have a category like food that is fairly stable over time, I might select a 12-month average. This selection, though, being the 12-month average, will only work if prior year data is input. Next, you have a year-to-date option. This is simply taking an average of your year-to-date results. If I have actual results in the model through June, then the year-to-date average would have an average of January through June results. I tend to use this option the most as it really does incorporate all my spending habits during the course of the year. Going down one, we can see that current month is also an option. This will simply set the monthly values equal to whatever the current month actual is. This is an option I would not recommend for wide use due to the fact that I don't necessarily want to base my entire forecast based on 1 month of results. 1 month does not make a trend. Then, as we go down here, we've got prior year monthly average. Again, as it sounds, it's going to be the average of all of your prior year months. This option will not work if you do not have prior year data input into the model. Going down one, again, this is going to be your monthly budget. This will populate the rest of the year with whatever your budget values are for the remainder of the year. This has been set to the default value for all of your initial forecast picks. If this is selected, you will not be able to implement a salary increase during the year, and there will be no difference between salary by month section versus the by pay period section. Now, as we go down a little bit, we can see that we also have year-end budget available as well. This will simply make the remainder of the year months fall out to whatever values get us to the year-end budget. Then finally, we have a prior year-end selection there as well, which again is exactly how it sounds. It's going to set the year-end forecast for your current year equal to whatever the last year's period ended at. Again, this will not work if you do not have prior year data in the model. Now, those are all the sections, but again, you can also always choose monthly manual or your year-end manual, which there are directions on in the step 2 video. Further over to the right, we can see that the next year's worth of forecasting for 2023 is also included in here as well. So you can take a longer term outlook on your forecast. If you want to see the monthly values, you simply expand that box and you can see all the monthly selections. Now, going back to our main current year forecast, let's jump into it and start making picks. So as we start, I'm going to start with our salary post taxes and deductions. Based on what I've heard from my manager, I know that I'm actually getting salary increase coming up. It's going to be 7% and it's going to happen in April. We can see that starting in April, the value has gone up. And also what I want to do is, since my budget, if we go back here, is set by salary by pay period, it's only right that this should also be salary by pay period. So adjusting that as well. So we got salary by pay period coupled with a raise going into effect. Now I'm going to leave this at a year-to-date value because, again, as we go throughout the year, I want to factor in that salary increase. As we go down, interest, I'm also going to set that equal to the year-to-date average. Not too much coming in from this bucket, but that way it'll be reflecting the results that we've seen so far this year. As we move down to our mortgage amount, this is something that I'm going to leave at the monthly budget. The mortgage amount should not change on a monthly basis going forward. That should be pretty darn stable. Now, for HOA, I was unfortunately just informed that our association is increasing our assessment on a monthly basis by 5%. So it's really going up to $263 a month, the 5% raise. So in this, I'm actually going to select monthly manual. A blue box will appear here. And from there, I'm going to type in the 263. We'll see that that populates with the remainder of the year months, not doing anything though to the actual values, of course. Okay, moving to our next category, which is electric. For this one, I'm going to simply set it equal to the year-to-date average since it's going to reflect my trend so far this year. I'm going to do the same thing for food, entertainment, and eating out. As I'd mentioned before, this is my favorite selection to pick just because it does reflect all of your recent behaviors so far in the year. Now, the fun part of all of this is as you're making all these adjustments, you can constantly see that this net income or savings amount forecasted at year end does change. So you may have situations in some categories where you're spending more than budget, and others maybe you're not spending all of your budget in there. Now, with this, hopefully what it's going to help you do is identify those places where you need to cut back, and maybe also see areas where you can offset some of these different expenditures. Now, you may have some instances where some categories are over budget, but you're able to play around with other categories to figure out where you can find savings in order to still meet your year-end goal. The final category I have here is large purchases. So if you remember back in the budget, I think we'd set it equal to around $4,000. So in this, I've got to buy a couch, a TV, more furniture, bunch of large capital expenditures. Usually for items like this, where there's a large amount of money hitting in 1 month, I don't take as much, I don't look at the monthlies necessarily as closely because they don't mean as much. So again, for these, usually what I do is I'm going to set this equal to the year-end budget. Because when we look at this, I haven't had any expenditures so far this year, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to have it later in the year. Again, a lot of these type of expenses, they hit later in the year. So again, we wouldn't want to take an average of 0 and project that for the rest of the year because we know that $4,000 worth of expenditures are coming. Now, if we know that our budget's $4,000, but say an unexpected issue comes up where I'm going to be spending a lot more, maybe I need to purchase a new hot water heater because it broke. The way that you'd approach this in this tab is to say the budget's $4,000, maybe I need another $2,000 for a hot water heater. You'd pull it down here, you'd select your year-end manual, and you'd add another $2,000 to the $4,000 budget. That gets us to $6,000. So that changes our outlook at year-end for, of course, the category, but then also your projected net income for the year. With that, we do conclude step number 4. I would definitely recommend you taking some time to play around with this tab and kind of figure out all the different scenarios that could happen in the remainder of the year. But really, for the next step, please select the video for step number 5. I hope this was helpful. If so, leave a like, and we'll see you in the next video.